Thank you, Peter. Good morning, everybody. Hopefully everybody's doing well. I'm Steve Jones. I started sql-server Central along with Andrew Warren and Brian Knight. Brian couldn't make it today. Years ago, we started this site with the idea that we were going to help train people, help teach people about SQL Server, be better professionals, learn a little bit more. And as we started to run this site, it became apparent that we had kind of different roles. I was kind of the guy that greased the bearings, I filled the tank, I pulled the starter, made things work every day. And Andy was a little more of the idea guy. And we had all these ideas over time. As he likes to say, they're not always good, but he has a lot of ideas. And I don't always agree with him. He's quite a few ideas. We usually talk them over. I shoot them down. One of his ideas years ago, I was driving home from work in Denver. It was in a rainstorm, a rare rainstorm in Denver. And he had this idea that we would take all these articles we had published during the year. I think this was 2002, and we would put them in a book, and we would sell the book. And I had to pull over. At night, it was dark in the wintertime. I pulled over to this elementary school at night in the rainstorm, and I'm sitting there on the phone arguing with him, saying, that's the dumbest idea I've ever heard of. We've already published all these articles. Why would anybody buy a book? Well, I was wrong. People bought the book. We didn't make a lot of money, but it actually was a success. So over the years, Andy's had other ideas. One of those was sql-Saturday. One of those was to actually try to bring conference-type events and training to people all around the country. We started a training business a few years ago called SQL Share, where we do training in Orlando, not Microsoft certified training, but custom training, effective training for the real world. And we wanted to market this and help people out, and also let them know. We found that most people never go to a conference. Most IT professionals never get money for training, never go to the PASS Summit, never go to TechEd or anywhere else. There's a few lucky ones of us that go every year or go quite often. So Andy had this idea that we would start this free event, and we would provide marketing opportunities for ourselves, for people like SQL Sentry, other places. But we would just bring training to people, and hopefully a few of them would then pay us later. Well, I thought that was a dumb idea too. Here we are, sql-Saturday 33, so it shows what I know, I guess. But over the years, it's been kind of successful. Andy's done a great job. I'm proud to be associated with sql-Saturday, even though really, mostly it's Andy's work. So I'm going to let him talk to you a little bit about how it's evolved.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Yeah. Yeah, if you would. So what I wanted to talk about was how we got started and where we're here. And then we're going to let Rushabh talk about what he's going to do with it next. So in the beginning, this was an original idea for me. How many of you have been to a code camp? So code camps are pretty cool events. They've been tremendously effective, but they're a little bit of a stealth event because they don't number their events like we do. In all honesty, they just don't have that visibility. So I went to a few of these as a speaker, but if you were a SQL person going to a code camp, it wasn't compelling. There wasn't enough variety. So we started talking in February, March, finally May 2007, and said, could we do this? What would it look like? And there were some names being kicked around, like doing a data camp. I think at the time, PASS was doing a PASS camp, which was kind of a brand without an implementation, at least in my mind. So we wanted to do this, but of course, talking to Steve, who is, as you can tell, my conscience, right, trying to tell me what's doable, which is a valuable role to have in a partner. And so what we did is we went to some of these events, and then we found the people who ran the Orlando Code Camp and said, tell us everything about it. Tell us what went wrong. Tell us about some of the problems you had. And it was really interesting to hear a lot of their problems were related to the fact that they didn't want to handle cash. They didn't want to take money from sponsors. Instead, they would say, we want you to bring all the soda. So imagine flying into town and being tasked with finding your local Costco and buying 50 cases of soda and taking it over to the event. It made it very hard to get sponsor money. Without sponsor money, you can't do those things. So that was a pain point. They really didn't spend a lot of time on logistics or sponsors. They wanted the sponsors to give money as if it was kind of their birthright, right, to be candid. But it's a symbiotic relationship. If you want sponsors to give you money, you have to give them something back. You have to treat them like they matter. So we really took that as kind of the key takeaways that we wanted to be a little better, if you will. Not making fun of CodeCamp, but just try to improve on the formula and move forward. So as we're talking about this, at the time, the question was, are there enough speakers? Is there enough interest to have a SQL-only event in Orlando? And so in hindsight, maybe that looks obvious, but at the time, it certainly was ambitious, I think. We had no idea if it would work or not. So plan was more ambitious, so it was two parts here. So the first one was to build a franchise. One of the problems we saw with CodeCamp was that they reinvented the wheel in every city. Everybody built their own website, everybody had their own way of doing it. And if you were interested in doing a SQL event, right, you're not a code guy, you don't want to build a website. But more than that, there was all this knowledge that was being learned and lost because there was no way to share it. So our thought in the beginning was, can we save these lessons and somehow make it easier for people in other cities to do the same thing so that it goes beyond just the cities that we could use. So that was part one. The other part was we wanted to give this to the community at some point. We knew from the beginning that, one, there was no revenue model that we wanted to build around this. We never made any money from this directly. Never took any money from sponsors to build this. And it really closely aligns with chapters. Right? It's one of those things that really needs a community where you've got a list, and you know some speakers, you know some local sponsors. So our thought was we could build it faster and better because, in all honesty, we didn't have a bureaucracy. The decision cycles, me, Steve, and Brian going, what do you think about doing this? Done, let's go. We were also willing to invest some of our own money to learn some of those lessons, which means we're taking all the risks. So that was the dream in the beginning.